Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
This happened during the pandemic, and I'm still dealing with the aftermath. My wife and I moved into our house about 5 years ago. It was my father-in-law's place before he gave it to my wife. It's a nice neighborhood, quiet mostly, except for our next-door neighbor who's the wealthiest person around here. When we first moved in, this neighbor, the rich guy, seemed reasonable. He'd wave when we saw each other, helped me once or twice with fallen trees behind our houses, and kept to himself during the week. Weekends were different. Rich guy converted the first floor of his mansion into a private nightclub with an indoor swimming pool. Every Friday and Saturday night, cars lined our street, music thumped until early morning, and drunk people stumbled around our property line. He invited us to one of these parties when we first moved in. He came over while we were bringing in groceries, told us about a party that weekend, and said we should come see his place. I thanked him and said maybe we'd stop by. We did go, trying to be neighborly, but it wasn't our scene. The music was too loud, people were doing shots off each other, and the pool was full of people who weren't swimming. After that, we said no to his invitations. When he invited us again, he'd talk about how great the party would be, mentioning the DJ or theme. I thank him but say we had kids as an excuse. He never pushed hard, which I liked. His girlfriend was different from him. She always said sorry about the noise, brought baked goods after loud parties, and tried to keep peace between us. One Sunday morning, I was having coffee on my porch when rich guy came over looking hungover but laughing. He asked if I could help him move something, saying there had been an incident the night before. That something was a leather couch at the bottom of his pool. As we pulled it out, wet and ruined, he told me drunk guests thought it would be funny to see if it would float. I asked how that happens, and he said tequila, lots of tequila. We laughed as we dragged the soaked furniture outside. That was how he was back then. Wild parties, but good about the chaos. The worst pre-pandemic party was about 3 years ago. It looked like half the town was there. Cars were everywhere, people spilled onto his lawn. The music could be heard blocks away. During the night, there was a loud crash. The next morning, we saw a tow truck removing a car stuck in a brick wall at the edge of his property. The driver walked away with minor injuries. Despite all this, he wasn't a bad neighbor, just a rich guy who liked to party. That changed when the pandemic hit. Our town was lucky at first. Schools closed before the state said so, and most businesses shut their doors to slow the spread. But rich guy didn't stop partying. His parties got bigger, like he was ignoring the restrictions on purpose. The first few weekends of lockdown, police came and warned everyone. By the third weekend, they weren't nice anymore. I watched as patrol cars lined our street and officers took people out in handcuffs. After that raid, rich guy changed. The fun party guy became an angry, entitled jerk who thought rules didn't apply to him because of his money. He organized a protest with his wealthy friends. They stood outside town hall with signs about freedom and government overreach, but the building was closed. They went to the county office, which was also closed. Then they went to the local supermarket. I saw videos later. Rich guy and his friends harassed tired grocery workers, trying to enforce mask rules. They yelled at teenage cashiers. They filmed themselves knocking items off shelves when asked to wear masks. It was mean knowing these workers were risking their health to keep everyone fed. Rich guy got arrested again but was out the next day. I made a mistake asking him about it when I saw him in his driveway. I said I saw what happened at the supermarket and asked if he thought those workers had enough to deal with. He called them sheep and part of the problem, saying the pandemic was just a control scheme. He told me to wake up. I tried saying they were just doing their jobs and everyone was struggling. He said nobody would tell him what to do and bragged he paid enough taxes to own the town. The talk was tense but civil. Things changed a few weeks later when he and a friend raced sports cars down our street at 2 a.m. I have 2 kids, and the engines woke them up screaming. The next morning I talked to him. I asked what that noise was about, telling him he could have killed someone. He told me to relax, saying the roads were empty and they were just having fun. I reminded him we lived in a neighborhood with families and children. He said if I didn't like it, I should move, adding he could drive his car anywhere. That's when I got mad. I told him the only reason he wasn't in jail was because he was rich, and anyone else doing what he did would be locked up. His face got red, and he stepped toward me. He warned me I didn't know who I was messing with, bragging he owned half the town's businesses and could make my life hard with one call. I asked if he was threatening me, calling him classless. He said he was just stating facts and told me to be careful who I insulted. After that, things got worse. He started harassing not just us, but everyone in the neighborhood. When someone had work done on their house, he called police claiming code violations. If visitors parked on the street near his house, even for 10 minutes, he called a tow truck. He hired expensive lawyers to disrupt town meetings with complaints. Whenever the town tried to pass pandemic safety rules, his legal team threatened lawsuits. His girlfriend still visited occasionally, looking tired and embarrassed. She would say sorry for his behavior, explaining he was going through something and the pandemic hurt his business. I said it had been hard on everyone and didn't give him the right to make it worse for others. She agreed and said she tried talking sense into him. She always brought treats for my kids. She was so kind that I couldn't understand why she stayed with him. Their relationship looked strained, with neighbors hearing arguments from their house. The final straw came last month. The town approved road improvements on our street, just fixing potholes and drainage. Rich guy lost it. Overnight, he got 10 junk cars and parked them along the street, each with flat tires so they couldn't be moved easily. He wrapped a chain around construction equipment left overnight and put up a vulgar sign threatening the town council. When police and construction workers arrived next morning, he stood in his driveway filming them, shouting about his rights and how they were on his street. 3 police officers had to remove him when he tried blocking the tow trucks. He yelled this was his property and he paid more taxes than everyone, saying they couldn't do this. The police told him this was a public street maintained by the town and to step back or be arrested. Rich guy asked if they knew who he was and threatened to take their badges. The best part was when they found none of the junked cars were registered to him. He bought them with cash from a scrapyard without proper documents. Since he couldn't prove ownership, they were called abandoned and towed at his cost, all 10. Making things worse, the construction company filed charges for equipment damage. Between towing fees, equipment damage, and charges for disrupting public works, he faces thousands in fines and possible community service. His girlfriend came by after his arrest, without cookies or apologies this time. She told me she was moving out, saying she couldn't take it anymore and was sorry for the trouble he caused. I said she didn't need to apologize and none of this was her fault. She said she let it go on too long and should have left when the pandemic started and she saw him changing. She said she'd be gone by weekend and wanted to say goodbye and thank me for understanding. She moved out that weekend, taking half the furniture and both dogs. Rich guy has been quiet since then, though expensive cars come and go, probably his lawyers. The construction finished without problems, and the road is better now. The neighborhood has come together like never before, having small outdoor gatherings and creating a text system to warn each other when Rich guy seems angry. Last week I was mowing when I noticed Rich guy watching from his window. Later, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No stamp, just my name. Inside was a check for a large amount and a note saying, "For the inconvenience." No apology or explanation. I haven't cashed it. Part of me thinks it's a trap. Part thinks accepting it would validate his behavior. My wife thinks we should give it to the grocery store workers fund created after his harassment. What I know is money doesn't give anyone the right to terrorize their community, ignore public health, or act above the law. Rich guy might be the wealthiest person here, but in human decency, he's the poorest soul I've ever met. I love traveling but hate airports. The issue is having metal bits inside my body from a well-known incident in the UK in 2005. In 2017, I had a temporary stoma to help part of my intestinal tract rest because of strictures and inflammation from the incident and ulcerative colitis. This meant I had an external opening on my stomach for waste to leave my body into a bag. I called him Stewie, Living with Stewie was tough, but we managed. My doctor said it would only be temporary. The stares and awkward situations were hard. I still wanted to live normally, including travel. I was going through my local airport wearing the sunflower lanyard, a discreet way UK airports identify people who might have issues but don't need physical help. Most staff know what it means right away. It was morning and I'd changed the bag before leaving home. I was gassy, which happens. You can open the bag slightly and press to let air out. The early flight and late taxi made me stressed, so I'd done this many times to reduce the bulge from air. At security, I put my items on the table for scanning. I told a man who saw my lanyard about the metal in my body. He asked about metal implants that might set off detectors. I mentioned the metal pieces from my accident and my medical device. He asked if I wanted the wand or a gentle pat down instead of the full body scanner. I don't like enclosed spaces, so I picked the wand. When it beeped, I explained each spot. I told him about the nail and plate in my shoulder, then the pocket change by my hip. He nodded and let me wait while my bag was scanned with my belt, shoes, and wallet. While waiting, someone tapped my shoulder. A bossy young officer told me I needed another check. I smiled, nodded, and moved aside. He asked the usual questions and roughly patted me down. I asked him to be gentler. He told me to shut up and said he could do what he wanted. Then Stewie got upset. I hadn't eaten or had coffee yet, so I was just passing air when he pushed my arms up. I yelled because one arm doesn't go much higher than shoulder level due to injuries. Lifting my arms showed the bag. I pulled my shirt down quickly. The officer said all bags needed scanning and told me to take it off. I adjusted my lanyard and told him I wouldn't remove a medical device in public. He threatened to arrest me and stop me from flying if I didn't remove it. By now we had an audience, including 2 other agents and his boss, who had used the wand on me. The young officer was getting upset and told everyone I was breaking rules, complaining during the pat-down, and hiding a bag that needed scanning. I was embarrassed and frustrated. I told them he was rough, was a disabled person, hurt my shoulder by pushing my arms up, and now wanted me to remove a medical device. The whole line stopped to watch. People whispered, some looked sympathetic, others annoyed by the delay. The supervisor came over to help. He asked what was wrong. The young officer insisted I was hiding something for scanning. The supervisor asked to see what he meant. I lifted my shirt to show the Stoma bag edge. The supervisor understood right away and said that was enough. He saw it was a medical device. The supervisor told me I could go when my stuff finished scanning. The young officer disagreed and grabbed my arm to spin me around and get to Stewie. I pushed him away and told him to get his hands off me. The officer got angry and said I wouldn't fly today. I didn't care anymore about missing coffee or breakfast before the plane. I told him if he wanted to see my bag, he should show me his first. He looked shocked. I repeated that he should show me his bag right then, and only then would I show mine. I told him I had an ostomy, and called him an idiot for missing the lanyard or ignoring it because he thought his uniform made him better than others. I said he thought his job let him treat people badly, unlike his boss who understood. I asked for his name and staff number and warned him his bosses would deal with him by the end of the day. The supervisor took the officer away. The crowd broke up, many nodding support. I took deep breaths to calm down. Eventually, they let me get my things and go to my gate. While walking away, an older lady patted my arm. She said I did well standing up for myself and her stoma was called Sally. I smiled and said Stewie thanked her for support. During the day, I talked to airport management, security contractors, and border agency. They said they'd check the video and investigate. I was upset but felt better knowing they took it seriously. A week later, they sent a letter saying sorry and giving me vouchers for other flights. They also said the young officer was fired after finding he'd caused problems for other people too. He had a history of bad behavior that caught up with him. I felt better but moved on. 2 or 3 months later, I had almost forgotten when I was in a bar with friends. We were having fun when I noticed someone watching me. It was the same security officer, out of uniform and drunk. My heart sank as he came to our table with some friends. He called me out as the person who got him fired. My friends looked confused as he wobbled up. I told him his behavior got him fired, not me. He slurred that I would pay for making him lose his job and claimed He was just working when I made a big deal. I reminded him he was unreasonable and aggressive, and the airport agreed with me. He got angry and said he'd make me pay. He tried to punch me. Because he was drunk and I moved quickly, he hit a metal post instead. He howled in pain. He fell to his knees, holding his hand and making noise. His friend stood there confused as two bouncers came over. The bouncers asked what happened and if I was okay. I knew them from the gym and told them this man tried to punch me but hit the post when I moved. They looked at him on the floor. One asked if this was from my airport story. I said yes, and he had just told me I would pay for him losing his job before trying to punch me. They laughed and said they'd call an ambulance for his hand. They also banned him from the bar. His friends helped him up, looking embarrassed as the bouncers took them out. I heard him still whining about his hand as they left. My friends were amazed, and I had to explain the whole airport story. It became a story people asked to hear at gatherings. The next year, 2018, after about 2.5 years, Stewie was disconnected. The surgery went well and I was happy to have my body closer to normal. The ulcerative colitis hasn't caused major problems in the last couple years. I'm a loyal friend, the kind who shows up with a shovel when someone needs to hide a body. Not that I've done that, but I would if needed. So when my best friend needed help getting revenge on her entitled landlord, I was all in. My best friend is a small-town country girl who had moved out of state with her family years ago. She was never happy in the big city, and after her marriage fell apart, she needed a change. She was homesick but didn't want to go back to her hometown. She wanted to be close enough to visit often while still having her own space in a similar setting. During a camping trip, she fell in love with this small town about 5 hours from her children's father and about 6 hours from her hometown. It was perfect, small, quiet, and reminded her of home without being home. While exploring the town, she found a small house for rent. I call it the crack shack because it looked terrible. But my friend can see potential where others see trash, and she reached out to the owner about the details. The landlord told her the house was livable but a fixer-upper. He explained it had been vacant for a while, and some guy had been breaking in at night and caused damage. He told her that the police knew about the situation, and the guy hadn't been back in months. Then he made her an offer that seemed too good to be true. He explained that if she paid for supplies, he would pay her back. If she did the work on the house and paid all utilities, he wouldn't charge rent until repairs were done. He also mentioned he'd draw up legal documents saying that if she decided to buy the house later, he would sell it to her for $15,000, since it wasn't worth more than that. My friend thought about it and wanted all the legal documents done before moving in. The landlord agreed, and over the next few weeks, paperwork started coming in. She read everything, signed it, and sent it back. Before moving in, she needed to make a few minor repairs, a plumbing issue, a damaged ceiling, and 2 broken doors. She fixed these problems, sent him the receipts by registered mail, and kept copies for herself. A few days later, she got notification that he had signed for the letter. Then a week went by, then 2, then 3. Nothing. She tried calling but got no answer. She emailed and sent letters. Still nothing. A neighbor told her the landlord had health issues and had been in the hospital, so she figured that must be why. She moved in as planned and kept fixing up the house. Fast forward a year. My friend had cleaned up the junked yard, replaced all the doors and storm doors, fixed several windows, fixed the plumbing and electrical, replaced the hot water tank, fixed the furnace, and even bought supplies to fix the roof. Guess who finally emailed her then? The landlord. He wrote saying he had been in and out of the hospital, but had received all of the receipts and photos of the work. He said everything looked good and that he'd be in touch. My friend started getting a team of friends who knew about roof work. The day before they were supposed to start, another email came. The landlord wrote that after talking to his attorney, he decided that my friend had been squatting in his house for a year without paying any rent. He said the amounts on her receipts were unreasonable and refused to repay her for the work she'd done. He said he would forgive the first 3 months of her time there, which should pay for the work already done. He gave her 15 days to pay $9,000 or move out, threatening legal action if she refused. My friend was shocked. She replied, reminding him of the lease she signed and the agreement they made. He replied saying his lawyer had no record of a lease on file. He said that when he sent her copy to her, the post office returned it, so it was null and void if he said it was. He asked her to prove they ever made this agreement, so she dug through her records and sent him copies of every email where he laid out the terms. She thought maybe he just didn't remember because of his health issues. He replied saying he didn't remember any of that. My friend had saved voicemails from him, including one where he said he got her signed lease and told her she could start the repairs and move in when ready. He had also reminded her to send him all receipts related to home repairs. She offered a compromise, suggesting she would cover the cost of repairs and pay all the utilities. She proposed paying less rent to make up for her time and money spent. She even offered to cover the cost of repairs and start paying rent going forward, if he would accept the work already done as payment. This was still a deal where the landlord came out ahead, since she had put more money into everything at this point and only made repairs they had agreed on. The landlord said they could try to work out a new deal, but he still wouldn't pay these receipts. He wanted her to start paying rent, and if she wanted to buy the house, it would now cost $30,000. In this area, even after all the repairs, he would be lucky to sell it for that much. My friend told him she needed to think about his offer. She didn't. That's when she called me, because I can solve problems. I told her to talk to a lawyer first. She did, and while the lawyer thought she could probably win the case with all the correspondence she had, she decided the house wasn't worth it to her. So she called the landlord back. My friend told him that after thinking it over, she was going to decline his offer as she wouldn't have agreed to it before moving in. He tried to negotiate another deal, still a bad one that didn't include paying her back for any of the work she had put into the house. The landlord said this was his final offer and told her to either accept it or get out. This is where I came into the story. Since he wouldn't pay for the repairs, I sat down and made a list of everything she had done to that house and made a plan. One by one, she and the team that was supposed to help fix the roof went through the house and unfixed everything she had fixed before. The new doors were removed. The old ones were still stored in the garage. She took down all the drywall she had put up but hadn't finished. She removed all pipes, fittings, fixtures, appliances, and every shingle meant for the roof. We made a few calls and sold every bit of it to a family friend who needed some home repairs himself. A month after she moved out, she got another email from the landlord telling her to pay up or move out. That's when she replied. My friend told him their business had ended a month ago when she moved to the next town over. She told him there was no need to pay her back for her work on his house, as she had removed everything she paid for to get her money back. She told him she left the house in the same condition as she found it, minus the several dumpsters full of garbage she had to remove from the house and property before she could even begin the repairs. By her math, this should make them even. That was a year ago. Once in a while, she still gets emails from him saying she owes him money. She doesn't reply. I've learned a few things from this. First, even with signed documents and recorded talks, some people will try to take advantage of you. Second, my friend is too nice sometimes. Third, watching an entitled landlord realize that his property is back to being a worthless crack shack is pretty good. My friend is now living in a much nicer house, with a decent landlord who fixes things when they break. She's happy, her kids are happy, and she's closer to home. And the crack shack is still empty, with no doors, no plumbing, no electrical, and a roof that leaks. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.